4:09, we'll call the meeting to order. And the next item was the approval of minutes. That was, looks like it was December.
There's two sets of minutes.
October and December?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I move approval of both sets of minutes.
Okay.
December 3rd.
I second.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, okay, good. It's approved.
Hi, I'm Robert with Nomium.
Now we have we have public appearances. So Anna, what do we do here? We haven't had this before in our tree advisory. So is there anything that you know about that you need to do, or just ask people to state what their thoughts are?
So you can just have the person who is here to talk about non-agenda items just to state their name, and they have 3 minutes to talk about whatever they'd like to bring to the attention of the committee.
Okay. So there are 2 sets of people.
So I believe Sue Easterday is on the line.
It's just Sue. She's here.
Okay. So Sue, could you share your name and your comments? Yeah.
You're muted.
Hi. Okay.
Wonderful.
Hi, everybody. I'm just viewing and getting familiar with what you do. I'm a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, and do find the task of tree protection and everything that you do. I need to learn more, number one, and number two, I am very much in favor of tree protection ordinance. So everything I can learn about your efforts so far and anything I might be able to do to help in the future is something of interest to me.
Okay.
That's really it. I'll just observe from here unless someone has a question of me.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right.
Well, welcome.
Welcome along, Sue.
And agenda review. Is there anything that needs to be changed, or is everything set? Okay, we're all good with the agenda. So the first item is the Tree Advisory Committee 2021 orientation.
All right. I have a little bit of a PowerPoint, so I need to share my screen. All right. Hopefully, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I'm calling this orientation, but really it's what it is I just want everyone to be on the same page of kind of the history of TAC, how we ended up to be where we are now, and just I wanted to put into context the current tree preservation ordinances and policies that we have in place, just so we're all on the same page. If anyone has any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt me and ask your question. It's no problem. That won't distract me at all.
Okay.
All right. So starting off, Tree Advisory, we call it TAC. It was established in 2012. Some people in that original group are still a part of the group, which is great. It was not an officially recognized committee. It was just an ad hoc committee of 5 City of Fitchburg residents with a 2-year time horizon. And the original work plan involved, number 1, tree preservation ordinance, helping to complete the inventory of street and park trees, trying to get a revision of the 5-year urban forestry plan, and also doing volunteer projects such as Earth Day and Arbor Day. A lot for 5 people to do in 2 years. which means it became officially codified in ordinance, and it has 6 Fitchburg residents who are representatives on the committee and all the representation, which is great. And then we also added, just to be on the committee, you should have a, to whatever extent practical, working knowledge of arboriculture and a general passion for trees. And it also added that the staffing is done by the urban forester, which is a position that I'm currently holding. And the duties, if you look, this is online as well, just basically to act as an advisory committee to Park Commission. That's why we meet the Thursday after Park Commission. Park Commission meets the first Thursday of the month. We meet the second Thursday of the month. So if they have anything to refer to us, we get it in a timely manner and can pass it back to them before their next meeting. And basically, we're supposed to be providing oversight of the city's urban forestry program, including but not limited to advising Park Commission and the Common Council for, everything from tree planting to, again, tree preservation, vegetation management, public outreach, all that kind of stuff. So you'll notice this tree preservation thread is kind of running throughout. So up until now, this group has really shined in doing programs like this. This is a fence line tree replanting in Quarry Hill Park that this group was a part of. Part of this was grant funded. This is a similar kind of situation, Oak Meadow Park. Again, planting trees. This group's been really great at working with volunteers and getting trees in the ground, which is great. Another example, there's lots of pictures like this because there's been lots of products like this, which has been great. However, if we're going to really I think this year we're really going to dig into some of our original intentions, and we have a little bit of extra incentive because about a year ago, I want to say new comp plan, but the comp plan for this decade, for 2020 through 2030, was adopted by the Common Council, and you'll see, policy 1.3.6, develop a tree preservation ordinance, a tree diversity plan, and a canopy goal of 30% in the urban service area. So these are the kinds of things I think that we're going to really start digging into here. And in order to do that, I just want to give you a little bit of a background on our current ordinances that affect trees and tree preservation. This is Chapter 54 in the municipal ordinances is the chapter that deals with parks, recreation, and forestry. This is section 54.78. It's called the authority of the city forester. And basically this ordinance says that the person in my position can basically plant, maintain, and remove trees and shrubs in public areas. There's also a caveat here, letter B, private trees and shrubs, and this is the public nuisance ordinance. And basically it says that the person in my position could, if there's a private tree that interferes with the use of a public area, is infested with a plant disease or insect or pest, or endangers life, safety, health, or welfare of a person or property, can be deemed as a nuisance, and I can compel people to then take care of that tree. We end up with a lot of neighbor disputes that people are hoping to solve with this ordinance, but getting to that public nuisance is a pretty high bar. So we don't really, this ordinance hasn't been that useful, and the idea behind it is if the urban forester notices or is told, hey, there's a pest in a particular yard or fence line or whatever, we can get it taken care of before it gets to be a bigger problem. However, the person in my position really isn't in a good position to do pest surveys. We're really busy with, day-to-day work. Conducting pest surveys isn't one of the things that we're able to do. And, in a past life, I was a pest survey person, and actually my predecessor, Ed, was one of our cooperators. And when I worked for the state, we conducted the pest survey, and Ed worked with us and said, okay, let's put traps in this park, let's put trap trees here, let's cut and peel these trees. But we did the work, and we provided him the results. So I think this ordinance is a little bit out of date from that perspective. There has been talk of rewriting it. I truly don't know where that's at. But at any rate, so this is, just to give you the background, this is one of the ordinances that's out there in regard to tree preservation. The other one that I really want to bring bring up is Chapter 24, Land Division. And this is an ordinance. It's only 2 sentences long, but this is a really powerful ordinance. So this basically means that as land is getting subdivided, Section 24.9 under required improvements, J, which is the last improvement, is street trees. So, and you can read here when the developer is subdividing land, they are required to submit a tree planting plan to be approved by the city engineer, but that the city engineer gives it to me to look at. And that plan has to include a tree for every lot or every 80 feet, whichever is greater. And basically what that looks like, this is the tree planting plan for phase 1 of Stoner Prairie. And you can see every lot or every 80 feet, there's a circle. And that circle means $300 that the developer has to pay to the city to plant a tree there. So the result is, this is Stoner Prairie now, there's trees. We started planting that right, probably 2 years ago, I guess. So as soon as the public improvements are done, we start planting the trees. So basically, this ordinance, it's only 2 sentences, or this part of this ordinance is only 2 sentences long, but it gets trees front and center and considered one of the public improvements. They're not an afterthought. They're not something that's nice to do. They're required. And we, outline that very simply, that the developer has to, give us a plan, and then we follow that plan. So it's pretty easy to understand. It's pretty succinct, but it's very powerful. If you look at the number of trees that we plant, last year we planted 430 trees, and the orange bars are what were paid for by developers, and the blue bar is what was paid for by the city through Parks budget, or through Parks, Recs, and Forestry budget. You can see, we really, over the last 2 years, we've planted a lot of trees, and a lot of them have been funded by, by developers. So this has been the tool to get trees planted in our new development. And I think, just kind of an aside, it's kind of funny, like, I probably should mention this, but in the job description of my job, it says that I should plant up to 100 trees a year. It's so funny, like, we're always way over that. Like, last year was 430, this year will be about the same. It's just like, it's kind of funny. But at any rate, that being aside, I just wanted to bring up that, in terms of ordinances and trees, this is a very simple ordinance. It's easy to understand, and it's very, very effective. The other, it's not an ordinance, but the other thing I wanted to bring up was a policy, the rural residential development criteria, that when areas outside the urban service area are being subdivided, residents have to go to planning commission and they have to meet 5 criteria. The last 2 are they have to have a forest management plan and they have to do heritage tree preservation. And those 2 things are defined. I'll put the definitions here so you kind of know what we're talking about. In the forest management plan, it's required to have a tree protection plan component, and any heritage trees that, any trees that meet the heritage tree definition have to be protected, which is really nice. So again, when land is subdivided outside the urban service area, we've got trees being considered, in the planning process, which is great. So hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly. But I just want to bring up, so, I've kind of given you a little bit of a background of tree advisory, kind of what the charge has been, what our charge is moving forward. And if we think about the ordinances that we have in place now, we really do have to think of them in the realm of sustainability, and sustainability meaning where, economic factors and social factors and environmental factors all overlap. If you think about that first ordinance, it's kind of silly for me to run around and try and tell everyone who's got dying ash tree they've got to get rid of it so we can get rid of ash borer. That's just not really practical, and so it doesn't really happen. Whereas that second ordinance that I showed you, the land division ordinance, it's very practical. It really, I think it works very well. And I would just say the rural residential criteria is also within that realm of, being very practical and and thus gets implemented. So when we're thinking about these things, we just need to make sure that we're thinking of it in a little bit of a broader context, or some of the ideas we have will not have legs, if that makes sense. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. I went through that kind of fast because I know we don't have a ton of time. But I just wanted to give everyone a background of the different ordinances that we have related to trees and kind of how they work and kind of what the results are. And of course, this is why we do all this. Planting trees with kids is one of the things that we do every spring. So, are there any
Hannah, the only question I have is that there's some useful information in that in the slideshow there. Will you be sending this out after? I don't think I saw this one come through, but do you mind sharing this one so that we can have it as a reference?
Absolutely. Yes. I'd be happy to do that. All right.
And
Is there anything else on this or?
That was all. I mean, I didn't want to get too far in the weeds or spend too much time. I just wanted to give everyone a background of the fact that tree preservation has been part of THC 2012 since the very first iteration of THC, and just want to give everyone the background of different ordinances that we have and how they work.
And I think you need to mute your video.
Sorry.
There you go. Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, then we're ready for the tree preservation ordinance, which you had a copy was sent out to us. So if you don't have it, you pull up your email.
I just distilled down some ideas that have been kind of percolating over the last year or so, just to give us a starting point, maybe to jump off this conversation. And I added some definitions as food for thought. Because, we talk about different things, heritage trees, specimen tree, all kinds of things like that. And I just wanted to put in writing basically what they mean, according to a few different sources. We could tweak those if we wanted to.
Could I share this on the screen just so we're all on the same page?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
I believe this is the document we're talking about. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I had one quick, well, maybe not quick, question on the scope part of this, where, I think our goal is kind of this broad ordinance, but my understanding from your presentation, and I could be wrong on this, is that the rural development actually is is not in bad shape right now with that heritage tree protection and the woodland coverage things that are already in place. So is my impression, and I could be wrong, is that we're kind of trying to focus more on the specifically urban side of it, and maybe this is implied in here, and I'm just not quite understanding.
I think that would be the way to go. I don't want to direct people either way, but it seems to me we've got the rural residential criteria, that covers it for outside the urban service area. We may want to consider what's appropriate in the urban service area.
Okay, yeah, I completely, that was my understanding. I just wanted to make sure I got it. And that's, I think, not my understanding, but also what I believe the committee should be focusing on. So,
and I think one of the keys to that rural residential criteria is the plan, because that starts the conversation. Having that plan, that management plan or that, tree survey or whatever you want to call it, as part of the process, it starts the conversation. It's similar to when the developer submits those tree planting plans, it starts the conversation, and often there's some back and forth, which is good.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a good idea for us to just see that these. Sonia, I know you're on the call as well. This is something where we're going to have to interact with a lot of other people if we want to move forward with this preservation ordinance. Yeah. And one of the things that has been kind of asked of us, and I think is a very reasonable request, is to really solidify as a committee what our goals are. And I think Anna is providing this as a good starting point, but isn't trying to speak for the committee either.
Right.
I think this is a good starting point, but if anybody has other thoughts on how these goals are worded, or if we should really, sorry, I keep on moving on the Word document on my screen, like you guys can see my mouse, which obviously it can't. But the goals section there is kind of going to be the effective mission statement for what we're trying to do and help us communicate to external people, not on the committee, not here all the time, why it is we're trying to do this. And I think this is a really, really good start because it gets
Okay,
pretty to
I
the
just
point.
tried to distill what had been said in the past and just get it in one place. So people didn't have to pull from different minutes or different notes for meetings, just so we kind of had it and we could refresh our memories and kind of move forward.
I think this is a very important document. Anna, thank you. I think it's.
Oh, you're welcome.
Crystallizes what we've been talking about, working towards, I think.
And I think one important part of this goal, and I agree with this, but I think it does merit some discussion, is the idea for these goals is to focus more on new things rather than focusing on stopping people from doing something with their existing, like we aren't, I think this is probably the appropriate way to go, but I'm willing to hear counterpoints on, we're trying more to think about if somebody's making a new development rather than focusing on stopping me from removing a heritage tree from my property, which I think I also won't do. But it's kind of, I think a different ask, a different focus than what these goals are getting at. So if anybody has any.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like working on private property is probably beyond a scope of what we could do.
Mm-hmm. I guess that was my question. The focus of the goal is primarily public property or city approved developments. Because I was thinking about existing property that's being improved, including our roadways, which has been a major problem, losing trees to that. So,
and did I specifically put road development on here? I don't know if I did.
I think you did in the third bullet there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third bullet. Yep.
Right.
But that's a great point, Linda, that the road development projects are a significant source of a sore point, I think, for all of us on the committee. So that's a good place to really call out in our goals to make sure we're focused on that. Mm-hmm. And I notice, sorry, I'm going to law school, so they spend a lot of time focusing on specific things about what you say or don't say in the goal. Right. So in the fourth bullet there, you mentioned heritage, specimen, significant, and then other.
Yeah.
So I think that other from your definitions kind of includes commemorative and witness maybe, but is there I guess walk me through if there's a specific thought process on the named ones there, if it's just kind of the big ones are the first three, and then the commemorative and witness are included in that umbrella.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mostly put that in there because I didn't want to lead people one way or another. And maybe we just want to do, certain specific trees. I know I was looking at tree preservation ordinance from Alexandria, Virginia, and they basically designate tree preservation areas and like groves and things like that. I don't know if we want to do that. That seems like it might be beyond our scope, but yeah, that's why that's kind of something maybe the committee can explore how you kind of want to define that. It seems to me kind of how we're trending is we'd like to see at least when there's new developments or road projects or whatever, a tree survey done, which is relatively straightforward, to start a conversation on maybe mitigation factors, maybe tree preservation, maybe, if these trees are going to go, can we get something planted or whatever it happens to be?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me.
I wonder if this also helps support decisions made around the trees that we definitely want preserved, and then some of the trees that get in the way of sustainability and growth. Because I know
What do you mean by trees that get in the way of sustainability?
well, so it's I'm just thinking about times when there's been projects to remove trees that interfere with desirable trees reproducing themselves.
Yeah.
And people being unhappy with that because of the value of that the vegetation itself brings, but maybe not fully realizing what price that comes at, which is, not being able to forest to sustain itself, or a grove of trees, or the more desirable trees, canopy trees, long-lasting trees, being able to survive. And that happens at. Go ahead. Sorry.
Are you talking less about invasive shrubs?
Yes.
Basically shading everything out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the objections sometimes people have had to removing those.
Yep.
It's kind of like the ones on the Seminole Highway where they did the road work. They improved the roadway, but then they took down the vegetation, and most of them weren't valuable trees, but it kind of looks like too much of an open expanse now, though, too.
Yeah, that makes me very sad.
Yeah.
Well,
Really.
I think some of the goal maybe with this, like in the rural plan, or not the rural one, the development plan development district zoning code right now, where or maybe it's the land division. I might be referencing the wrong one, but the one where Anna gets kind of a budget to replace things, where if they're tearing out things in a roadway, it's okay if they're tearing out non-native trees, as long as we're kind of coming up with an alternative. These younger non-native trees are okay to get rid of potentially, if we then have some sort of plan for replacing them, so that down the road we have the nice beautiful wooded roadways instead of just barren.
You're using a great word, which is plan. If things should be planful. Yeah. Sometimes we need to remove invasive species to allow other trees to grow, and sometimes we're giving it up for other reasons. When they don't cause damage, but they're being removed for other purposes. I'm sure that's not clear, but.
No, it is. And just an example of that was the East Lacey Road project. Part of the beginning of the project was a tree survey, and tree mitigation, tree preservation was part of the project the whole way through. And I don't know how people think it looks now, but we did get a lot of trees planted there to try and mitigate some of the trees that were removed in that project, and also adding trees where there weren't any in the past, or were just invasive shrubs. So,
is this that area down by where Lacey joins Sain?
Lacey from Sain to Fish Hatch, or actually to City Hall, basically. That whole stretch.
Okay.
So I wonder if...
I think we put 130 trees in there.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if adding a step of either the scope or the goals that really focuses more on the planning aspect of it might make sense for kind of our committee adopted version of these goals and scope, where we're hitting on it a lot in the conversation, and I think it maybe is underemphasized by our written product here, where what we really want is just somebody to be thinking about this, with like talking to Anna before they go forward, is I think kind of a summary of a lot of these goals, where if they start that conversation, we can really make a lot of positive change.
In the third bullet, would it help with that to, instead of saying provide for, just say plan for?
Sometimes it's not possible. Like the pond project that you're talking about, part of the issue there, like, you know, they took down a lot of black locusts to make that pond bigger on the corner of Seminole Highway and PD. But, you know, it can be tough to plant trees. There's a 4-to-1 slope there for one, which makes it tough. But the plan is for that thing to be full of water. So it can be tough to, you know, work a tree planting plan into that. There's also going to be another turn lane there eventually. So sometimes it's appropriate, sometimes it's not. So that's why I didn't I don't think we should require it. But I do agree it should be part of the conversation.
Right. And the word provide is very powerful because that means you actually are planting the trees, not just planting for it. I wonder is the planning around the well, I did have one I wonder if we could add let's see, on development. Well, anyway, I'm sorry. On the next one, I wondered if we could, as you're talking about identifying the heritage specimens, significant number of trees is defined below as part of the development process. I wonder if we want to add and sustainability.
Sure.
I wonder if that would be helpful. And then I wonder if the word plan refers to our goals around the canopy. You know, if that isn't, because that, or would that not include all of our tree planting? I think it would, wouldn't it? The canopy.
Sure.
I wonder if I wonder if we want to add a goal that to plan and provide for 30% sustained 30% canopy cover.
Okay, can you give me what would the wording for that be? I can write it in, but
well, I can make so somebody else wanted to say it differently.
I think what you said is plan to provide for 30% canopy.
I like the word provide. Yeah.
Pardon me for one moment. I'm getting a call from a daycare, so I gotta step away. I will be right back.
within the urban service area?
Yeah.
I think so, right? Yeah. Yep. Then it would be more inclusive of everything. So it certainly includes our heritage trees and the preferred specimens, but it includes everything that supports that.
And then is this what you meant, Linda, as part of this development and sustainability process? Is that what you wanted to add? And sustainability?
That was I was suggesting that, yes, that we consider that, yeah, because that means maintaining, or maybe it's maintaining the development and, well, the development process, I think, was good because I think that defines what happens. And then development process and overall sustainability, maybe. I don't know, because I was just thinking it should include things that aren't part of the development, like we want to maintain what we have. Identify those as part of the development process and maintaining current species or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I just
yeah, we can work on wordsmithing, you know, moving forward.
Right.
Is there, so since we have Sonia, our city planner, on the line, do we want to give her an opportunity to kind of walk us through some of the things that already exist and any sort of context she might want us to have as we move forward on this?
Sure.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. You know, part of my goal of being here tonight is just to sort of hear straight from you what the goals are and what the scope of this might be. So observing this conversation is very useful. I don't have any sort of presentation prepared, but again, happy to be part of the conversation. And then if there are specific questions or, you know, research that would be useful from planning and zoning, I can definitely circle back and provide that information and comment on your ordinance efforts as it proceeds. So generally speaking, though, I manage development projects in the city from, you know, largely private development projects, so land division, during the land division process, Anna explained that very well, and identified, the public improvements that would be required. When we get into the level of detail of those street improvements and public street trees, I'm usually not too involved in the details. That's usually more in the Public Works Department, or with Anna as the city forester. I also don't get involved in managing city street projects, reconstruction projects, new road projects. So the conversation around sort of including a tree survey in a city-led reconstruction project, that's not something that I usually touch either. So in addition to land division, the planning department oversees architectural design review, so private property development of site and structural components of that. So it sounds to me like the scope of your ordinance review so far is not necessarily related to that sort of architectural design review process, but perhaps more focusing on the subdivision stage of development review, where you're taking a larger area and subdividing it and reviewing perhaps the tree resources that exist at that point in time, and taking that into consideration when approving a plat of lots or where the street layout might result, etc.
As far as I know, I don't think there are too many other ordinances or policies in regard to tree preservation.
Did you say you do not believe there are?
I don't think there are any other ones that I'm aware of, at least, unless I could be missing something.
Right, and a couple of the members here on the committee did ask for some general information, which I provided and you shared out to all of the members. Some of the questions were what policies exist within our comprehensive plan, our neighborhood plans, and then what does exist in terms of existing ordinances. And you've walked through those. Our comprehensive plan has the goal that you identified right away of establishing a tree protection ordinance and a tree canopy of 30%. We have neighborhood plans that, thank you, have quite a lot of detail, and in some cases have really gone in and done a complete survey of that neighborhood, which in terms of scope is sometimes say 270 acres when a new neighborhood plan is developed. If you scroll down a bit, there you have, thank you. Neighborhood plans there, McGaw plan. I've hyperlinked everything in this document and just explained there that on the pages, there's, I think, a whole chapter and a detailed survey done by a professional in regards to the McGaw neighborhood plan and what types of trees exist there. So then through, after you get through a neighborhood plan, one of the next steps is the land division and the platting. So the platting should then refer back to the survey in some way that was done at the neighborhood plan process and take that into consideration. But there's not a level of detail in the ordinance that sort of states that. It's more of a general land division shall be consistent with these plans, if that makes sense. Okay, great. And I've been here with the city of Fitchburg for about 2 years, 2.5 years. It's not something that I specifically have a lot, that has come across my plate too often. I think there were only a few instances where we were looking back at one of these surveys that was done, particularly in the Terabessa neighborhood for one of the parks. I know some heritage trees were identified there and were taken into consideration with grading and land division, things like that. So I think that's not a matter of we've been ignoring it. I just don't think there's been any specific instances yet that I've dealt with and that I can speak to with experience in terms of Fitchburg's ordinances. The most detailed item that we have is the first one up there, which you guys have covered, the RRDC, Rural Residential Development Criteria. And that applies to new rural residential lots outside of the urban service area. And it is on private property, but it goes hand in hand with the land division. So when someone utilizes the RRDC policy, they're creating a new lot. And in exchange for the permission to create that new lot, they must meet these criteria. And if there are woodland cover, they must complete a forest management plan. If there's heritage trees on the property, they must establish how those would be protected. So that's very detailed and I think covers that section well. finally, the only one I don't think I touched on yet is zoning, which is in the sort of architectural design review. Thank you. Design review standards, so section 22-607 of the zoning ordinance has that sentence. It's not very detailed. It just kind of talks about consider the landform and landscape in its natural state and preserve that insofar as practicable. Sorry, my puppy is whining in the background. So yeah, I think we have a lot in there. And again, I apologize, I didn't put this into any sort of formal presentation. I'm really here to kind of hear what your goals are. And then I can definitely explain this in more detail as needed in the future. But this is what we have today.
We appreciate you providing this and being here for sure.
Absolutely. Yep. One second.
I have a question if there's either for Sonia or for Anna.
Sure.
Okay, I know you talked about shift mostly inside the urban service area, but something that was just stated about the rural residential development criteria, that's a policy, so it's really something that comes into play when someone in the rural community comes to City Hall to talk about a land division or whatever type of construction. So there's no force of ordinance. So there's nothing to stop that person from saying to themselves, I'm going to cut down 7 trees before I even come to the city, because I know they might tell me that I'm not supposed to. So I'm just observing that might happen. And so maybe if you want, whether you combine the goals or just do an ordinance that affects the developed area, the urban area of Fitchburg separately, or combine them. If you combine them or do something later on with just the RRDC, you might prevent that scenario from happening.
Yeah, I can address that a little bit. You're correct, it's a policy. It does live within our comprehensive plan. Per state law, any rezoning or land division project must be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So when someone comes forward with that rural land division, we refer directly to that policy. And unlike a lot of the more general policies found in the large body of the comp plan, this is very detailed, and we follow it to a T. So in effect, it sort of operates like an ordinance. And you see in there 2 separate sections. There's required criteria and then there's waivable criteria. So that's where there's room for negotiation. The required are required. And to get rid of that, it would take a comprehensive plan amendment to address that. So, and like you said correctly, this comes into play when an application is submitted or requested. So it's in turn for that. It does not apply when someone is not requesting those things, but that gets into the committee's question of, are we managing private tree, resources outside? It sounds like it's outside of the scope of what the committee had discussed here, but sort of not my area to comment on.
Good food for thought though.
So do we as a group have next steps of what we want to do with our sort of, rough draft here of goals, scope, and definitions for a preservation ordinance?
Seems to me, and I'm not sure if we'd want to give people more time to think about it or circulate, but at some point we should kind of have an official adopting these as our goals and scope and definitions or not decision, which you know, I'm happy to move we do now, or to wait until we've, you know, sent it around and people can really think about it. But we don't meet that often, so that's part of why I'm thinking it's helpful in my mind to have a formalized this is what our goals are, rather than continuing with a draft or just some kind of aspirational goals instead of concrete this is what our goals are. Does that make sense to anybody else, or am I just
Yeah, it does. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to maybe talk to Park Commission, but I don't know.
Sorry, could you say that last part one more time? I missed.
I wonder if it makes sense to present this at Park Commission and get some more input
Oh, that's a
from
good.
people outside the committee, but I don't know if that's necessary or not.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I think with these types of things, the more feedback you get, it always shakes out something that we're not thinking of with the group this size. So
Right.
I personally think that could be a really good.
Would we want somebody to then specifically kind of bring it to the Parks Commission?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that we didn't mention diversity, but perhaps when we talk about planning for a canopy, that includes diversity or sustainability. So I don't know if we need to be more specific than that.
That's a good point.
I don't know, I guess, you know, part of our. Oh, sorry.
That was one of your key things.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, just for being transparent and understandable to anyone who would read this.
Should it be a sixth goal?
I don't know.
Instead of trying to like blend it into other things and making them a little more complex, maybe just having it separate and clear.
And we could say for the purpose of sustainability or something like that.
Really, it seems like for a 30% diverse canopy would also work pretty well in the fifth goal there, where we could include a canopy, a diversity goal in that one. That's pretty clear. But I'm also fine having it as a separate goal so that it's just
I was just wondering about trying to insert the word canopy into the goal, the bullet points wherever we could, since the word canopy is also in the comprehensive plan. Like for the first bullet point, would it be better to just say reduce tree canopy loss during development?
Yeah. Jim, are you able to see? Are you on your phone or on the? Are you on the Zoom?
Oh, am I not coming through?
No, you're coming through fine. We have Gabriella's got pulled up a kind of working draft that includes the canopy in our fifth bullet point, but I wasn't sure if you were able to see that one or not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's good then.
Do we add
diversity? I'm just thinking of you know, how would we manage canopy cover provided by invasive species, invasive trees, and I don't know. I'm just getting confused between reduced tree loss versus reduced tree canopy loss. And maybe that's something for discussion later on. But, you know, just since the canopy goal is in a comprehensive plan, I guess, yeah, if the word canopy is in one of those bullet points, that should be pretty good for now.
Yeah, Jim, that's why I asked if you could see, because the draft Gabriella has a new fifth bullet point that says plan to provide for 30% tree canopy within the urban service area.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good.
But I think that's a great point. Like, since the comprehensive plan specifically calls out canopy, we want to also make sure we want to be tied into that as much as possible, because I think it supports our goals, that it's also clearly a broader goal.
Yeah. Yep.
Greg, was there any other ideas that you were thinking about that you thought should be incorporated into the goals? I know you had said something. I just want to make sure you had some ideas before.
No, I appreciate that. I think this is everything that I was shooting for. I was mostly just wanting to make sure anybody who had other thoughts had an opportunity to voice them.
I have one last little nitpicky comment. What about for tree canopy cover? What about using the word native tree canopy covered?
That's not a bad idea.
I mean, we don't want to get in the way of developers clearing out buckthorn and honeysuckle and all that stuff, and that provides. I don't know. Anna, is buckthorn considered a tree? What's the?
I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't usually have a trunk that's bigger than 6 inches DBH.
Our canopy cover calculations, like at 23%, that doesn't include buckthorn, does it? Or honeysuckle?
No.
Okay.
Well, see, that's a really good point. And you talk about distinguishing in between, well, actually desirable trees and undesirable trees. There is a difference. And of course, we want. So even in number 2, when we reduce damage to existing trees during construction, is there a way to identify that as desirable trees? I know we can't use that word, but so do native trees, does that do it? Does categories like hardwood and evergreen and whatever, I mean, I don't know. Are there terms that would then exclude those invasive species? Wondering.
Well, that's kind of where some of our definitions come in, maybe.
Could you repeat that, please?
That might be where some of our definitions come in, either specimen tree or significant tree or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, Gabrielle, I like that additional item you added, because it will really make these a lot harder to read if every time we say tree, we say, non-invasive native tree that we all really like, that's a heritage tree. Like, we could get down to a very wordy, inclusive thing. But if we add another line that's just, we're prioritizing native, sustainable, diverse trees. Or
I like
place
it too.
we mention trees. I think that's a really elegant solution to that.
Yeah.
Yep, I do too.
My one question about the native tree canopy thing is, if it seems to me like the goal of a 30% canopy has never been explicitly for native. So saying the goal is a 30% native canopy seems really optimistic compared to where we're at now, as opposed to saying our goal is the 30% canopy and somewhere else our goal is native trees. Because obviously we'd like a 30% canopy cover of native trees, but it seems like those are kind of two separate goals, where one is we want as many native trees as possible, and the other one is we want
I have a question about
canopy cover.
I have a question about that in relation to climate change as well. I mean, will that mean that some of the trees that will be more desirable as we're planning for the future might be a little bit different than they were 50 years ago?
Is there also a difference between tree canopy and canopy, like in terms of like an ecologist perspective or a forester's perspective? You have to say tree canopy, or just is canopy imply that you're talking about trees?
Somewhat implied. A little bit of a difference can be, if you're, how high off the ground are you talking? You know, are you including shrubs or not? If you're saying tree canopy, you're not including shrubs.
Which
Oh.
does it say in our goal of the 30%? I don't remember.
Yeah, in the,
I think specifically for that reason, that's why I believe the comp plan says tree canopy.
Okay, then I think we should probably keep the tree in there.
actually, did it say urban tree canopy? Or is that implied by the urban service area?
I think it means for the urban service area.
I like just tree canopy too.
And I think it's helpful to the non-specialist if they read it, they know what canopy is. It's, you know, a different word.
Mm-hmm.
So just clarifying.
Do we know when the next parks meeting is, where we might want to bring these goals to them and run them past them?
Thursday in April.
Okay, sorry, I missed the second Thursday. Wait,
The first.
Okay, first. So I guess I'm happy to check my calendar right now and make sure I can make it to that before I volunteer for it. But I'm happy to be the tree advisory person who goes to that one to kind of explain to them what we're doing and try and get input.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think if we're going to send it to them, we should probably have somebody there to explain it while we send it. So.
It's nice that she's kind of sitting in on this conversation so she can also kind of be another resource.
Yeah. Looks like it typically starts at 7 p.m.
And it looks like that would be April 1st then, right?
Yep, that's what I came up with.
Okay. Unless anybody else is chomping at the bit to do it, I'm happy to plan to sit in on that committee meeting so that we can.
One of us should should reach out to the chair of the Parks Commission and tell them that we'd like to add it to the agenda.
I can let Scott.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I can let Scott know, Scott Endo.
I'll plan to attend as well, but if you want to take the lead on doing whatever presentation we end up doing, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't imagine it will be too much, mostly just explaining what it is we're doing. Would we want to, presumably, and maybe Anna, you can do this when you kind of let them know that this is what we're going to do, provide this so that they can see it just at least before the meeting a couple days so that they can, it's always tougher to read through it during a meeting, so.
It would be in the packet.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Well, I think this is a pretty good start. I don't think I have any other kind of significant additions.
So it might be nice then to talk to the Park Commission on that Thursday, and then report back that our meeting is the following Thursday. I think it's the 7th, maybe, or something like that, or 9th. I can't remember. At any rate, I think it's whatever. It's then we'd have their feedback for our next meeting.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Perfect.
Gabriella, thanks for driving on this one. It's always the dreaded task of updating while everybody's giving you feedback at once is not easy. So
we're all okay with where this landed, and we can decide finally after getting that feedback at our following meeting.
Sounds great.
And while you're editing, I have one little area where it needs a word under specimen tree, where it says when compared, it needs 2 trees.
Oh, hang on, sorry. My screen is being blocked. When compared.
Yeah, there we go.
Good catch.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that my eyes skip right over, and I know I miss it all the time. So.
Yep. Yeah. Well, good. Well,
Thanks
that's
a lot,
nice that
Anna,
that meeting is
for
soon.
finding this. Yeah, yeah, that's true. It's coming up pretty quick, which will be kind of convenient. But and I really appreciate you putting in the time to kind of get the first draft going before we updated it here. I think that really helped kickstart the conversation. So
Yeah, no problem at all. I just wanted to kind of put a frame on things so we could get things kind of in writing and move forward a little bit more efficiently. All right. We don't. I don't know if we are done with that agenda item, or did you have other things to say?
So I guess, are we good to move on to report from the department? I think so. Okay.
Okay. You know, I don't have a ton to report. It's been super busy. Tomorrow we have a bid opening for spring tree planting. We got our burn bids back. They actually came back pretty reasonable, so we're gonna have a little bit of money to buy seed, which is great. A lot going on with ash borer, just a lot of work in that area. A lot of work with trying to get socially distanced spring tree planting things going. We're going to have a couple of different Arbor Day events, but they're all socially distanced, so there's no opportunity for people to volunteer because it's kind of like we're going to dig a hole and put a tree there, and then a resident's going to come and plant the tree just with their family. So it's kind of anticlimactical. There won't be any food. There won't be any kind of festival atmosphere, that's just how it goes. So anyway, we're kind of busy doing the normal stuff and trying to accommodate for the pandemic as well. So that's sort of it in a nutshell.
glad you're able to do some things, even if it's not quite what we would hope for.
Right. And I'm hoping in the fall we can do something. We'll see. Something more festival oriented. In terms of announcements, I think just our next meeting, which is, I think it's the 8th of April. I should have it. Oh.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I have April 8th. Is that it?
Okay, perfect. I did also just want to thank Sue and Sonia for sitting in on the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate your time and
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming to you too, as Sue, so we can kind of preview the Parks Commission a little bit.
Absolutely.
Perfect timing.
Yep. Okay. Anything else, or are we ready to adjourn?
Just one note, I will send out that document to you all after this.
Oh, thank
Okay,
you.
the edits and all. Okay.
And I think I'll be on the road at the next meeting, but I will make sure I'm a place where I can get Wi-Fi. So
Perfect.
I'm going someplace warmer.
Oh, nice.
Oh no, all new adventure. So we'll see. I'll be among trees.
Okay.
Oh, and I guess, so can we make an official, we're officially seeking a new tree advisory committee member, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know we've one application recently, but if anyone else is watching is interested in applying, we have an opening on the committee.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I mention it at council as well.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Perfect. Did it get put in the paper at all?
Which?
That we have an opening?
I don't really have a mechanism to do that.
Oh, really? That was how I found out about this in the beginning. It was in the Fitchburg Star.
Oh, nice.
I can ask the mayor if how they're putting it, because there's lots of committees that have openings right now, just because this is the time of year when openings start happening. But I don't know if there's any specific mechanism for how it's announced in the paper. But it would be an interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Advertise it. But they try to do it in social media. But honestly, if anyone that's watching is interested in applying for a committee, you should always just throw your application in, because it will be considered, it will be in the queue. even if there's not an opening currently, it's always good to apply and just declare that you're interested. But yeah, it would be nice to be able to advertise the fact that we have an immediate opening.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great. Anything else anyone has to share? No? Okay, so it's 5:14. And let's see, do we need to move to adjourn? I can't remember.
We should.
Yep.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, any seconds?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, we're adjourned at 5:15.